What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs, and in today's video, I'm going to show you a popular roster construction that I go with year out and year in fantasy. So this is not a foolproof plan. There is no true way to success in fantasy football. There's a lot of luck with it, as far as your guys not getting hurt, who you're playing that week, a bunch of stuff. We've seen how crazy teams can win the championship, right? But this is just a roster construction that I typically have success doing, right? Then it all comes down to, did I draft the right players? But this roster construction typically has given me success. So this is a standard team for the most part. I know people do outliers. They have some other different things. But for the most part, it's a 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 flex, kicker, defense. Now, some people might say a third wide receiver or only 1 flex. This is a majority of the leagues I play in. This is what I typically have for roster. And then 5 bench. So let's get into what I mean by roster construction. So if I'm in the draft and I'm able to get an elite quarterback, and I can consider 6 quarterbacks elite for fantasy, that would be Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes. Like, those guys are guys that you put in your starting lineup every week and you're good, right? Outside that, you start to get questions. So if I get an elite quarterback, I know I'm going to be struggling in other departments, whether it be running back, wide receiver, tight end. All depends on how the draft goes. So in this mock draft, I'm able to get Lamar Jackson. So if I get one of those 6 elite quarterbacks, I don't want to have a backup quarterback, right? I don't plan on Lamar not being my starting quarterback at all this season. He's my guy. And if he's not, he's going to be on the IR. So I'm putting him on the IR. But I only intend on playing Lamar Jackson on this team. So I don't need to roster another quarterback. And that goes almost with the same thing with tight end. And I'd say there's maybe 4. If you want to say Laporta is or isn't, that's okay. We can have that discussion. For the sake of this argument, I'm going to say he is. So 4 elite tight ends being Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, George Kittle, and like I said, if you do or do not want to say Laporta, that's fine. I'm not going to get mad if you don't, but I will say, for the sake of this video, Sam Laporta. So if you don't get one of those top 4 tight ends, yet again, you're probably going to want to have at least 2 tight ends, right? The tight end position is very tough every fantasy year to try to figure out. Those guys typically don't score a lot of points. We see like a Travis Kelce, a Sam Laporta, a Brock Bowers, a Trey McBride type of season to where they truly have an impact on your fantasy teams, but you have to get that right. So, but with having Laporta on this team, I don't want another tight end, right? I plan on Laporta playing every week, regardless of matchup, every week for me at tight end unless he's hurt. So, what does that mean for my roster, right? I'm weaker at other positions. In this mock draft, I had the 101, so I took Jamar Chase. Lad McConkey was available in the second round to me, right? It's the computer, so whether he is or isn't. But I did go wide receiver to start this draft. So my wide receiver position is very, very, very good. At the running back, we could see it's not as strong. I have Ken Walker, DeAndre Swift. So in my flex, I go Calvin Ridley, I go Najee Harris. I got 3 running back, 3 wide receiver build on this roster. How does my bench look? Right? I have a 2 running back, 3 wide receiver bench. That is my bench. Why? Because I don't need to have another quarterback. I don't need to have another tight end. You should never have 2 kickers, and unless you have like the best, by far, best defense ever type of team, and you don't want to drop that defense, you shouldn't have 2 defenses, right? You can always find a defense every week that has a favorable matchup, right? Defenses are random. We've seen good defenses put up 0 points, and we've seen bad defenses get 10 plus points, right? The Giants got a couple games last season where they got you some points. But nonetheless, you should never have 2 kickers, and unless it's a scenario, you should have 2 defenses. So your bench should consist of quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. So if you do have a non-elite quarterback, you're gonna want to have than a second quarterback, right? You're going to look for the best matchup between the two, and hope that, you know, you find the outlier, you find that guy that's going to raise in value throughout the fantasy season. But the thing is, if you do that, you're not going to want to have two tight ends, right? You don't want, if you have a 5, you know, you can have a 6 or 7 man bench, but typically it's somewhere around 5 to 6. You do not want 2 out of your 5 or 6 bench positions being a quarterback and tight end, right? Because of how many of running backs, wide receivers you could play. And you could play a tight end in the flex as well, but typically you're going to want wide receivers, running backs. They outscore tight ends a lot, right? So I want to make sure my bench is strong in the running back and wide receiver position. Obviously, there's going to be outliers, like I mentioned earlier, for, you know, players rising the ranks, and it helps your team picking up, you know, another tight end, right? Like a Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, some guys who are very uncertain right now because they're rookies. We haven't seen anything. And if they're available, right, and your team would benefit in the long run having them, sure, right? Like, going over this is not saying that these are the guys I believe in, like these guys are going to win. I'm not going to, that's not the advice this video is for. It's to help you construct your roster, like have this roster set up. So if you believe in Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson, that's who you have, right? If you believe in, you know, Bijan Robinson over Saquon Barkley, like these are all routes you could take, right? You just want to make sure that you are addressing the problems on your roster smartly, right? You don't want to waste bench spots on your team, because there's going to be scenarios like down the season we've seen so many times a struggle to find a really good running back. We've seen times to struggle to find tight ends worth getting points, right? So I don't want you guys to kind of struggle in those departments. So just a quick video for you guys of just the roster construction I like. So let me know if this helped. If it didn't, hey, I hope somebody else's helps you, but just wanted to give my piece of advice, and thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.